Folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, Tacitus today, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the amount of lies, premeditated, intentional lies that are being taught and shown to high school students, including senior high school, and including the students in some of the more expensive private schools, which kind of surprises me, but there you go. It's now all pervasive across the education system, including college, of course. Now, just a few days ago, we were having lunch with some people, and they send their kids to quite an expensive private school. And as often the case, of the kids are around, the parents are there. I try and how's school going, and oh wow, and then I'll try and softly ask a question about these issues like slavery, and just see what comes back, because then I can find out what these kids are being taught. Now the kid in question is not a moron. He ain't no genius either, but he's in a school, I think it's one of the four most expensive schools in Australia. So you would expect and require that there would be a higher standard of education there that's rigorous, accurate, honest, and unaffected by silly socio-political chicanery. But that's actually not the case. So the kid's being taught that slavery was a uniquely white thing. Only white people ever did it throughout the entire human history of the universe. Only white people did it. They only did it to blacks. Now, not only that, but the part about Arab slave traders and blacks enslaving each other, that's also been deleted from the conversation. So we've got rampaging groups of white folks running around Africa, all with the swastika. I mean, Hitler was in every one of these groups, by the way. And it might have been 300 years before Hitler was born or something, but that doesn't matter. We don't let that get in the way of the fucking narrative. They're all fucking Nazis. So you've got these rampaging, these kids believe, these rampaging groups of white folks running around Africa, just randomly, grabbing black people and throwing them on the ships, doing the 1,000-kilometer journey sort of out into the multiple thousands of kilometers journey out into, and just grabbing black folks and these black people, by the way, have no agency. They can't. They meekly hold their hands up and say, "Please put me in chains, white man." Like, yeah, right, that would really happen. So that's what they're being taught. Now, if you mention to them anything about, well, do you think the blacks were enslaving each other? Huh? Why would black people do that? They don't know what white people did. It's white, evil white people did it. What about the Arab slaves? Arab? What are you talking about? Yeah, okay, well, say Arabs were slaves. How come there's no black people in the Arab country? Well, they used to castrate all the slaves that they get, so they couldn't procreate. You're just Hitler. So there's not only have they accepted the lies, but they'll staunchly defend it. The girls worse than the boys, but they'll staunchly defend it and go, "Nah, white people did it. Nah, there was only white people, Nazis, fascist, Hitler." And so there's no, and when you're looking at a school where you've got to pay $50,000 a year, high school, you've got to pay $50,000 a year for your kid to get an education. I'd want more value for money than that. And so, you can ask other questions like, well, have you read widely, but have you got onto Wikipedia? And we know that's heavily slanted to the globalist left, and so really they haven't looked at and this is the thing that gets me. This is an expensive fucking school, and the parents don't seem to really care. The teacher tells how old's the teacher? Now the teacher's a woman at this school, and she's in her early 20s. And she's spouting off the most hysterical leftist globalist propaganda you can imagine, designed to socially destabilize the West and the white countries. And this teacher isn't even encouraging the kids to read widely or to say, well, hold on, it's quite nuanced actually. When the blacks actually enslaved each other and delivered the slaves to the ports, and they were these ports. The agents there were nearly all black, or they were Arab, or that sort of thing. That's all left out. That slavery had gone on for thousands of years. That's left out. And the most terrible lies are told about slavery. Not only were the whites doing the whole shebang, it was only ever something white people did. All the slaves were dying on every ship that went to America, and if there's any of them left, it was a miracle. But somehow millions of them got transported. How can you? And so the things that they're taught are heavily contradictory, and the kids might pick up on some of that. I mean, some of them must, for goodness sakes. They're 17 years old. They're old enough, surely, to have some discernment. But this was the bit that throws me. These kids not only have no discernment, and they accept the claims that some 23-year-old radicalized young woman is telling them, and they don't want to read more widely. But the parents are not taking really any interest in it, or the sort of interest that they're taking is that they're quite happy with that narrative. Evil white people, globalization good, mass immigration good, white people bad, but you're white. But I'm one of the good white people, because I'm a good white person because I say all the other white people are bad, which makes me good and virtuous. So I'm a good white person. It's all the other white people that are bad. And so the parents, if not encourage it, certainly don't, the attitude, certainly don't question it. Now, if it was my kids, I'd be sort of pointing out that, okay, you need to read more widely. You need to understand these are the other issues around it, and that what you're being told is a very narrow and very politically activist interpretation of what went on, and is willfully and purposefully ignoring the accuracy of the facts around the whole slavery thing. But they won't. Did you know that black slave ships used to go to the southern coast of England, grabbing people off the? Did you know that? No, it doesn't matter though, because white people are still bad. And so I don't understand that. Now I know it when I was doing history at high school, so the same age as this kid. I know that I was encouraged to read widely, and that I was very much of the view that there had to be different interpretations of a contentious or controversial event. If it was a date or something, on this day the volcano exploded, that you could quote from whatever source, because it's a hard, undisputable fact. But whenever there's an element of controversy about it, then to me, it was incumbent on me to find out, on balance of probability, what really happened. And I kind of enjoyed it in a way. The downside would be if I left an essay, for example, I left an essay till the last minute, and I just didn't have time to hit the books. Maybe I didn't have the books, or I had to go to the library, and the library closed early that day. Those sorts of things. And I go, well, I'll just have to make a guess on this. But it wasn't an ideological guess. I would still go, well, the likelihood was such and such. I didn't have a political view that blacks were bad and white good, or the other way around. Or it wasn't, and nor was that attitude encouraged in school. But now it is. They're encouraged to hate themselves, to hate their society, to hate their history, to hate their heroes, to hate their icons. And it surprises me how easily the children and the parents and the teachers are falling in line. Now, on the other side here, or another dimension of this, why would a school that's licking the parents $50,000 a year, the student, why would they have some 23-year-old just out of training, radicalized leftist teacher teaching at the school? You could, this is a school that's paying a good 30% to 40% above the government teacher rate. So they could quite easily get top quality teachers if they wanted them. But the school seems to have an unusually high representation of activist teachers. Now, I don't believe that's an accident. I think that's purposeful. So even in the private schools now, there's an element of that. Now, I don't know how the principals and the senior HR operatives or whatever in the school, I'm not sure how schools hire teachers, and maybe they don't have an HR department, I don't know. But surely the hiring of teachers, you would want academic excellence, you'd want impartiality, you would want high quality, you would want students to be encouraged to search for accuracy and truth and this sort of thing. Surely, I mean, it's a very expensive high school, and these kids are the ones that are going to be going on to elite colleges and so on. Many of them will. So certainly you'd want them on a path to academic excellence, or you'd think. Yet they're hiring, D grade, E grade, F grade activist teachers, young women in particular, and encouraging and letting those teachers loose to spread their activism. There's no master, because they've got like a master of history in the school. Why isn't this young woman being picked up on the lies, willful, clear lies that she's telling the students? Why isn't she being picked up as, hey, don't you do this? So they know she's doing it. They've hired an activist. They know she's doing it. And she's this particular one, I got her name. It's not hard to go online. I mean, she's a placard waving climate change activist. She's been through all the NGOs. She's a radical activist, leftist activist that would be fine in a government school, but they've hired into a private school, and she's being paid quite handsomely. I mean, she'd get, say, she's probably being paid close to 50-60% more than she would get in a government school. That's how much extra money she's getting, and yet she's not even good enough for a government school, in my view. But instead, she's gone into one of us elite schools in Australia, being paid quite well, and she's been hired over the top of what must be thousands of better qualified applicants. So this has to be purposeful. It must be intentional. I can't believe it's anything else. I mentioned it to the parents of this. That was a different guy, but parents, and saying, "Did you know?" And I was just passing it off, and they didn't seem to care. Oh well, if the school's happy, we're happy, and they're quite wealthy. So $50,000 a year is, to them, is equivalent to, I don't know, $500 to me. Kind of, I don't really care, but they shrug their shoulders. Oh well, there's a teacher shortage at the moment. Who cares? Shoulder shrug and let it go. And the mother of this particular kid, a different kid, but she seemed almost happy that he was being taught to hate white society and white people and all that sort of thing. She seemed as if it was some sort of step forward. Society will be better as a result of this. It's insane, but that's the sort of thing, and this is widespread. And there's a college kid down the road, some people we know, and she is an activist though. She spends all her spare time, waving placards and shit, climate change and everything. So she's far more susceptible to it, and she's quite a bit more stupid than the guy is. But she accepts without question. She's now 22, 23 maybe, and she still accepts this as fact, that only white people ever did slavery, and they're all Hitler and Nazis because of it. You've been a Taskless today, your Pushback Challenge. Thank you for listening.